Welcome to Caregiver Cast. My guest speaker today is Kim Allen, who will be talking to us about habit transformation for our caregivers to help you be able to shift your mindset by doing micro habits so that you can have a better caregiving journey. Before I introduce Kim, I'm going to give you some background information about her. As a habit transformation coach, Kim helps women shift their habits of thinking so they can break through self-limiting beliefs, overcome obstacles, and gain clarity in their life, business, and relationships. Creating the right shifts and habits of thinking brings forth new freedoms, reignites passion, and sets the soul on fire to make dreams and aspirations a reality. Welcome, Kim, to Caregiver Cast. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you, Mary Elaine. I'm very happy to be here today.
Awesome. So give me an idea of how you became involved with this habit transformation coaching.
Well, I was on my own journey of healing. I had experienced abuse in my life. I kept repeating the same behavioral things that were landing me in places I didn't want to be. And at the same time, I was successful in my career, and I just was starting to get to the place of not having joy, and I couldn't figure out why. And it's not that I wasn't happy, I just couldn't find that fulfillment. And so I started down the path of personal development. And during that time, I hired my first coach. And that was 5 or 6 years ago now. And I did this program that I now coach, which is habit transformation. And I had such a shift in my life. I went from corporate America to doing what I love, which now I coach other women. And I also found the love of my life because I healed a lot of the wounds that I thought I healed in the past through therapy, but it was in my subconscious. And so because of the shift that I made, the ripple effect in my family and my son, my grandchildren, it really was just the sign, that you need to go live your purpose. And so I use my voice coaching people, and I use my voice speaking, because I believe that people need and want hope, that there are ways to overcome this, the ugh factor of, the heaviness of life.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know with caregivers, they're going through a lot of that too, in terms of just the trauma and the pain that they had gone through in the past, and they need to heal that before they can actually help someone else. So this is a great topic for them. So explain what habit transformational coaching is about, so our caregivers can have a better understanding of what you or how you work with clients.
Okay. So first of all, I use an assessment that it identifies your intrinsic and extrinsic values and where your thought processes are as far as your habits go, the things that are subconscious. It's an assessment like no other. It's not a personality assessment. It is really how your brain is subconsciously thinking. And so what it does is it identifies those habits that might be creating the self-doubt, comparison, frantic thinking, overthinking, overwhelm, all of those things that weigh us down and keep us from moving forward. And so I use that assessment to identify each individual's habits, but then also, what are their objectives? What do they want to feel? Where do they want to go in their life? What are the things that they've always wanted to do, but haven't? It shows up in relationships a lot where we repeat relationships, same relationship, different
Yeah.
face.
Uh-huh.
And so we will
Oh, I
uncover
agree.
right? I did it
Same
for
work
years.
situation over and over again. Totally understand.
Yeah, I did it for years. And with caregiving, I helped with my grandfather in the very end time. I didn't do caregiving. I was the person making decisions
Mm,
for when he needed to go in a home. He had Alzheimer's.
mm,
And I saw the pressure. My grandmother was caring for him. The family was helping in the, how Alzheimer's, becomes it's such a difficult disease to work with, and how hard it was. But I also saw how it created this rift in the family,
mm,
because there's this loyalty of, I owe it to them. And yet
mhm.
there's this other side of it with, but I want to live my life. Who else is going to step up to the plate? I'm tired, right?
Right.
And so there's a unique dynamic in being a caregiver. And I talked to a woman the other day with exactly what you just said, where she had experienced abuse as a young girl. And as her stepfather got older and needed care, she was the one who was, commissioned to help her mom take care of him.
Mm,
And to cope, all her life, she's just shoved it down because nobody believed her.
mm,
And so in her mind, she knew she wasn't responsible. That wasn't it. Because sometimes when you go through things like that, there's this guilt in
mhm,
there. She knew she wasn't responsible, but she had so much anger that was pushed down that now who she is right now is like, she keeps people away from her. She doesn't let
mm,
people get close to her heart. And she wants that so much. And so that
mhm.
yin and yang, I guess, of obligation and myself, it's unique. And I'm sure you see that all the time with caregivers.
Well, you do. I noticed, I responded to a Facebook um, post in one of the caregiving groups on Facebook, and the woman was really torn about taking care of her mother who needed assistance because her siblings wanted nothing to do with the mother because of trauma in the past. So it was really hard for this woman to make that decision about caring for her mother when she never had a really good relationship with her. So my advice was, yeah, let's deal with, what the trauma you've been through before you can be a caregiver.
Mhm.
I mean, otherwise it's not going to be a good situation for you or your mother. So
Right.
yes, I
It's
mean,
like
a lot of
trauma on
people.
top of trauma
Mhm,
is what it becomes. No, and you're absolutely correct. And what I do is, once I uncover what those habits are, we dig deep into healing and learning to let go and finding peace in the things that have happened, but also to find purpose. Because
mhm,
when we've been through a lot of pain in life, whether it's one time or a lifetime, if we look at it in vain, why did it happen to me?
mhm,
That's heavy, that it's a constant living in the past. Why did that happen? This is the reason why I can't find joy, why I can't find the relationship I want, versus it happened. I can't change that, but how can I move forward, make peace with that, and then find purpose in that? And for me, the purpose in my pain is I'm sitting here with you, right? I get to
mhm.
share my voice. And so I think that's part of the journey.
I think you're right. I think that it's really important for caregivers to really understand, like your client that you just mentioned, you've stuffed this pain inside and you have never dealt with it, or have attempted to get assistance, but nothing really has changed. So I agree, you really need to make the decision to change your habits, your mindset, any way that you can, first deal with that big wound that you've never healed, because it can fester, and it impacts everything that you do in life.
Right.
So
No, absolutely. You're so
Mhm.
true. I mean, that's so true, is that it's not just who you're dealing with at the moment, that tug of war there, but it's where does that stress leak out into your other relationships, with your
Mhm.
children, with your spouse, and your work. And it's this overwhelming feeling that I have to do this. And unfortunately, in a lot of situations, you're right, they haven't dealt with it, and now they're in this position of feeling like they have to take care of this person, loved one. That's also a real big thing. Like, this is mom, this is dad, I'm
Mhm.
supposed to love them. And I think to acknowledge that this is a difficult situation, to acknowledge your feelings, and to allow you to feel that this is coming up, this is real. You don't have to feel guilty. Like, feel your feelings, because the longer you keep it stuffed, like you said, it festers.
Mhm.
And then, all your sense of joy, when in these last moments of life, there are ways to find peace. And so that once that person does leave this world, you're not living with all of the what ifs, I should have said
Mm.
stuff. I think that is really difficult, that place, because you can't write it.
Right. You can't change it at that point. So
No.
if you can find ways to acknowledge, like you say, and also look at, well, all right, so this did happen to me. What was I supposed to learn? And once you do that, um, hopefully you can see um, the person that you're caring for in a different light, and
Mhm.
then to accept them for who they are and where they are in their stage of um, disease, and
Mhm.
whether they're going to get better or not.
Mhm.
But I mean, I also think that it's better to work through all of those traumas so that you can know that you've done everything you could possibly do for that loved one that you didn't have really a good relationship with to begin with.
Mhm.
And I think then it will bring different memories to for you and for your loved one.
Absolutely. You said something really key, and that was acceptance. And acceptance is so, so important, because I know the first time I heard it, I felt like, what, you're telling me to accept that all these things happen, you have got to have lost your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But really, that's where it gives you the peace, that because you can't change it, you're no longer in that place of I want it to be different. So there's accepting that it happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
There's also this level of accepting that whomever hurt you, whatever that looked like, whether you felt like your parent or whoever this person is you're caring for treated you in the way that you deserved.
Mm-hmm.
I found that through my process of healing, that my mom wasn't the person who abused me, but I felt like she didn't protect me. There was a lot of anger there. There was more anger there than there was with my father. But what I learned is my mom went through her own things in life. She grew up learning how her parents taught her. She had her own pains that she had experienced. So she did the absolute best that she could do with the tools that she was provided.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we realize that, we can find that space of grace and forgiveness, because that forgiveness is what releases you. It's not for them, it's for you.
Right.
And finding that peace, like you said, is just, that's what you want. And knowing you did your best. It may not resolve the relationship.
Right.
But yeah.
I mean, as long as you've given it, you've recognized it, and you are making steps to change it for yourself, then I think that's where the acceptance or the forgiveness comes
Mhm.
into play. So I think that that is one of the biggest challenges for caregivers I've been finding, is that somebody has a loved one has lost their trust with you, and you need to find a way to bridge that gap that you've had with that person. So it makes it really important to, like you said, I mean, I'm sure there are things that my parents went through that I don't know all the details. I know some of the big details. However, I think for me, at least, I would have a better relationship with my parents when I was caring for them. I know there were times with, like, my father, we continued our pattern, unfortunately, but we were able to get through it sometimes and be able to enjoy the relationship. And I think that's the most important thing. You don't want to have any regrets.
Right. No, absolutely. You know, forgiveness and acceptance doesn't make it right. And I think sometimes we get stuck on, but if I forgive them, if I accept that it happened, then that meant it's okay. And that's not what that means. It's your freedom. And also as caregivers, I can imagine whether they went through something difficult in life, with that person, or there's just and I shouldn't say just, there is this feeling of, why do I have to be the one to do? Why am I the one who has to give up, my time to take care of you? Maybe you should have done a little better for yourself in life and you wouldn't be in this position. All of this stuff that actually hurts us more because we're trying to justify why we're in this place and instead of looking at it as, I have to take care of them, I am choosing.
There you go.
Because I want these moments, and I'm choosing to see what would the cost be if I stay here angry and bottled up. What is the cost to me and our relationship? Rather than, okay, what do I want? How do I want to see this relationship? How do I want to feel so that whatever is the next stage, I feel like I did my part and there's peace in it. I think that's what we all want, is peace.
Right.
And to also feel like we did the right thing, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You said it so well. I appreciate that. Knowing that accepting and forgiveness aren't saying that the person is right. It's just that you've made peace with it so you can have a different relationship with the person that caused the trauma to begin with.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
So you shared a little bit about the internal and external habits one has developed over time. So can you give us an idea of what happens after you do that assessment,
No,
where you would go with the
absolutely.
client?
Absolutely. So depending on the client and what their objectives are, it's uncovering what are those things that are telling you, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm obligated to do this. I don't really want to do it. A lot of times it'll show up as maybe being passive and non-confrontational. And so learning to understand where that comes from, learning to unpack that, and then understanding what you want from your life. It's a lot of us haven't given ourselves permission to connect with ourselves, much less with other people. We live in a world, I don't know about you, but I can go walk down the street and I can pass someone and say good morning, and they put their head down and they don't look at me and say good morning. We live in a place where, in a time where people are so in their own bubble, and it's so easy to lose the connection with people. And yet that's where so much joy comes from, is when you really learn to connect with other people and you want to understand other people. There's this, I can't explain it other than it's this joy that comes from stronger relationships. And then giving yourself permission to dream about the things that you really want, letting go of that guilt. Because I know a lot of times, I know moms, working moms, probably caregivers as well, where we feel like we're self-sacrificing. And if we say no, then we're bad.
Right.
When sometimes that's the healthiest thing that we can do, is establish those boundaries, understand what we need. Boundaries are so important. And boundaries that we set for ourselves and for other people. And then really just taking those steps, those small steps, to create the new habits of, okay, this feeling's coming up. Why am I feeling this? And taking that one next step, establishing what those goals are that we want in our personal and our professional life. And all along the way, depending on, since I deal with a lot of women that are in a healing phase, it's learning to love themselves, learning to accept themselves. And so it's quite the journey, and everyone's journey is a little bit different. And so it really is dependent upon the person, but it is shifting those thoughts from, for lack of a better word, why me, poor me, victim mentality, to, like you said earlier, what am I learning from this? And that's something I practice every day. Every time something comes up, I stop and I pause and I ask, what am I supposed to learn from this? It doesn't mean I don't get upset or angry or those things, but I'm aware. It's like, okay, what am I supposed to learn here? And I think it's just a beautiful way to look at life.
Oh, most definitely. I need to practice. What am I learning here? I still feel like when I'm doing something repetitively for someone, it just seems like, okay, I've discussed it. Let's move on. And, I find myself in the same place with the same every now and then. So like just giving access to my social media to someone, we had to go through about 6 steps, and, to verification processes. And I'm like, are we done? I mean, I think by now we should have this all figured out, but apparently not. So I understand that you're asking your clients to move one step at a time. Can you give us I know it's client dependent, I'm sure. However, can you give us an idea of how long it takes, I guess, on average? I mean, I know everyone's different. I mean, I know that as a speech pathologist. So give us an idea of how long this process can take with maybe one habit, and then how long is the complete journey?
Okay. So for me, what I generally offer is a 6-month program. It's 14 sessions. We do an objective session, and then we do 12 biweekly, and then a capstone session. And we do it bi-weekly because there is so much that you're uncovering and processing that it's
Mhm.
important that you're able to feel it, process it, implement it. And like I said, everyone's journey is different. And I coach around um, 6 basic habits, which deal with yourself, your dreams, your joy, structure, people. And depending on where someone's at in their journey will depend on, I don't look at getting through the whole 6 habits as the goal. I look at, okay, what is their objective? So for instance, for me, the first time I did it, I think I got through 4 habits. I was very, very blocked back in the day. Like I had a 20-foot block wall that when you got through it, there was another one. It took me a really long time.
Okay.
But I still had so much shift in even the first month, the second month, it kind of builds on each other. But as you know, with habits and working on yourself,
Mhm.
it never ends. And you get to this point in your journey, and then you see new things that you didn't see before. They
Mhm.
weren't even available to you because you were so blocked down here. So as you grow, oh, there's something else I need to work through. But as you do that, you gain the tools to become aware,
Mhm.
and then you can handle them in a different way. And I think it's just a lifelong journey. But once you have the fundamentals, I think that that awareness, if you choose,
Mhm.
because people can go through 6 months and decide, you know what, I'm going to continue to do what I was doing before. And I will be honest, I did 6 months and then I did 12. And it wasn't that I had that mindset. It just, I had so much to work through that I wanted to continue that journey. And it was, that's what benefited me. But I was able to get through a divorce. Um, I met someone new once I healed from that. I have the love of my life after going through it for 6 months because I left so much behind.
Mm.
Right? So, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but it's a deep, deep dive into your soul almost.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It sounds like it. Um, what do clients, I guess, experience? Let's just talk about a personal habit.
Mhm.
What do they learn from you or from themselves during every a session that you have together?
Mhm. So I'll give you a real life example of one of my clients who she um she became a young mom, 15 years old. By the time she was 17, she had 2 children.
Mm.
And she came from a culture that you no longer matter. Now it's your husband and your children. And so she went through these, well, let's see, 20 years of marriage where her husband did not treat her well.
Mm.
There was a lot of things that went on in this marriage, and she was always last. Never, she was not the focal point. And when we worked together, she found her value. She saw that I matter. She started to feel that she matters. She started standing up for herself. She worked through, her and her husband are working through. She established, this is what it's going to take to move forward. She started her own business, something
Mm.
that she never dreamed of doing, because she gave herself permission to put herself first without feeling selfish or guilty. And what she realized is that she now is giving her grown children a different mom to look up to, like the
Mm.
ripple effect with her children now. And she realized that no matter what, I raise these kids, they're adults now, they are responsible for their journey now. I get it. I could have, should have, would have, but I didn't. This is how it played out. I accept that. And now it's their responsibility. I don't have to be the one to try to save them. And she had a lot of freedom. Yeah.
Yes, it sounds pretty amazing. I think it must have been totally amazing for her to understand that, you have to put yourself first. And it's just like being a caregiver. You have to take care of yourself. You have to nourish yourself. Start a business, or, get for yourself time to write in a journal and what you're grateful for and things like that, so that you can be your best self and show up for the person that you're caring for. So
100%.
thank you for sharing that example. Can you give us any other idea of what kind of transformation people would go through with this habit transformation?
So habits are everything in life, right? Everything that we do subconsciously is a habit. We drive our car, we can get to the destination. And sometimes, how did I ever get here? Well,
Mhm.
because that was a habit. For me, I have this specific structure in the morning to get ready. And if I get distracted, I will forget my deodorant. It's just a given. That is the one thing. And so habits are always there. What you learn is how to become aware of those habits and make conscious shifts to create new habits. And as you continually do that new habit, that new way of thinking, what it does is your brain actually, it builds grooves in your brain and your neural pathways, so that now becomes the go-to habit over time. It's consistency. It's letting go of the old habit, understanding why that
Mhm.
habit was there. And when we're going through difficult things, sometimes that's to protect us. And that creates, so anytime your brain is meant to say, do not do that, that is different, that
Mhm.
is scary, that's its job, is to say, hold up, you're doing something new and I don't like that. And so that's where that fear will come up. But stepping into that every time, knowing I'm
Mhm.
replacing this old way of thinking with this new way of thinking, because here is where I want to go. This is how I want to see things in life. This is how I want to feel. And it
Mhm.
instills that confidence, that belief in self, as you start to shift and see the results. Because you're
Mhm.
taking that one step. And what we tend to do as human beings is look at the big picture.
Mhm.
And that becomes way too overwhelming. And then we quit and we go through that dialogue of, I knew I wouldn't do it.
Right.
Where this is
Exactly.
one tiny step at a time, and celebrating yourself. Oh my goodness. Caregivers, celebrate yourself multiple times during the day. Everyone should do that, because
Mhm.
we all do great things in our lives. And I don't think we celebrate ourselves enough.
I can't say it any better than that, Kim. So thank you very much. If someone in our audience would like to work with you, how could they reach you?
They can contact me, Kim at Power to Heal. I can put it, do you want me to put it in the chat?
Sure.
Okay, so Kim at Power to Heal is my email.
Okay.
They can also find my website at powertoheal.com. And those are probably the best ways to contact me.
Okay.
Because you can contact me through there, or here's my number too.
That would be great. So I just would like the audience to know it's power with the number 2
Yes,
heal.com,
correct.
power2heal.com, or Kim at power2 with a numeral 2 heal.com,
Right.
and your number. Perfect. Thank you
Yep.
so much.
And just so you know, before, one more thing on top of this is that I offer a free assessment for them to uncover
Oh,
those
okay,
habits of
great.
thinking. And then I sit with them for 30 minutes to go over those things. And so I invite anyone to take that as a really cool, interesting assessment.
Oh, thank you very much. And they can get that at your website.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, fantastic. What 3 keys can you let caregivers know about with this habit transformation?
I think 3 keys, and specifically caregiving, is that number 1, give yourself grace. Allow yourself to feel those things that you're feeling. I encourage journaling, and to not stay in that place. If you need support, get
Mhm.
it. Is that a coach? Is that a therapist? Don't try to do it on your own, because we're not meant. We're meant to lock arms and reach out for that support. That would
Awesome.
be the first thing. The second thing is their self-care. You can't you can't operate from an empty cup. You can't. And eventually you will break down. And who does that serve? That doesn't serve anyone. So
Mhm.
I know that there's the struggle with I'm being selfish, but caring for yourself is absolutely something that must be done. And I would say that the third thing is through habit transformation, you gain a new awareness.
Mm.
You see things differently, so you're letting go of the things that have blocked you, the lessons you've been taught
Mhm.
that have carried you to this point, and that's what got you here.
Mhm.
And the good, the bad, whatever, it brought you here and it made you the human being that you are. And you have the power to
Mhm.
create whatever you want moving forward, because none of that past is who you are,
Mhm.
and it does not define you. So you have so much opportunity when you're in the present time to make decisions and choices to move yourself forward.
Wow. Okay. So giving yourself grace, self-care, and yeah, to make those choices. That's amazing. I think that's what it really comes down to, is deciding that you want to make a change. You're making a conscious choice to start the process and then maintain it over time. So I really appreciate those 3 keys for caregivers. And if anybody, again, wants to learn more from Kim, please go to Power to Heal, again, power with the number 2 heal.com. Take the assessment, have that one-on-one discovery call with Kim so that you can begin your transformation. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Kim. I really appreciate you here today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mary Elaine. This was awesome. I love it. You have a wonderful day.
Yes, you too. Thank you.